Namaste, aloha. My name is Janapati Das, and we are going to read a wonderful new Krishna story, the meeting of Usa and Aniruddha, today in the Krishna book reading. And so thank you very much. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so, and feel free to like and make comments on the videos. Right now we are going to hear and repeat Krishna's holy names in Kirtan. Please join along, feel free to join along and join this jubilous song. Jaya Shil Prabhupada. Let me offer my respects to you for tuning in. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master and my spiritual grandfathers, that I may have the blessing of insight, spiritual insight from their I have no real intelligence or ability myself, and I humbly submit myself at their lotus feet. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Sridhar having a little bit of a coughing fit there. I'm trying not to stop the video, just go on with it. I like to be very realistic in my videos. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Welcome. I have a little bit of a hiccup, so it should make it very interesting during this class. So, we had just left out of a very interesting story of how Rukmi was killed by Lord Balaram. And a little bit about the genealogical table of the family of Krishna. So our next chapter, the meeting of Usa and Aniruddha, has to do with the lineage of Lord Chaitanya, at least the material lineage, right? All the living entities are children of Krishna. But some devotees are able to play his actual children in the material world. Aniruddha, of course, was the child of Samba and the grandchild of Lord Krishna. The meeting of Aniruddha and Usa, which caused a great fight between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva, is very mysterious and interesting. Maharaj Parikshit is very anxious to hear the whole story from Shukadev Goswami, and thus Shukadev narrated it. My dear king, you must have heard of the name of King Bali. He was a great devotee who gave away in charity all that he had, namely the whole world, to Lord Vamana, the incarnation of Vishnu as a dwarf Brahmana. King Bali had 100 sons, and the eldest of all of them was Banasura. This great hero, Banasura, born of Maharaj Bali, was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, which is very interesting because Bali Maharaj was actually a great devotee of Krishna. But his child was a great devotee of Shiva and always ready to render service unto him. Because of his devotion, he achieved a great position in society, and he was honored in every respect. Actually, he was very intelligent and liberal also, and his activities are all praiseworthy because he never deviated from his promise or word of honor. He was very truthful and fixed in his vow. In those days, he was ruling over the city of Shonitapura. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Banasura had 1,000 hands, and he became so powerful that even demigods like King Indra were serving him as the most obedient servants. Long ago, when Lord Shiva was dancing in a celebrated fashion called Tandva Nirta, for which he is known as Nataraj, Banasura helped Lord Shiva in his dancing by rhythmically beating drums with his 1,000 hands. Lord Shiva is well known as Ashutosha, very easily pleased, and he is also very affectionate to his devotees. That's why a lot of demons actually worship Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva is well known to give material benefits. He is a great protector for persons who take shelter of him, and is the master of all living entities in this material world. Being pleased with Banasura, he said, "Whatever you desire you can have from me, because I am very much pleased with you." Banasura replied, "My dear Lord, if you please, you can remain in my city just to protect me from the hands of my enemies." Once upon a time, Banasura came to offer his respects to Lord Shiva by touching the lotus feet of Lord Shiva with his helmet, which was shining like the sun globe. He offered his obeisances unto him. While offering his respectful obeisances, Banasura said, "My dear Lord, anyone who has not fulfilled his ambition will be able to do so by taking shelter of your lotus feet, which are just like desire trees. One could take from them anything he desires. My dear Lord, you have given me 1,000 arms, but I do not know what to do with them. Please pardon me, but it appears that I cannot use them properly in fighting. I cannot find anyone competent to fight with me except your lordship, the original father of the material world." Sometimes I feel a great tendency to fight with my arms, and I go out to find a suitable warrior. Unfortunately, everyone flees, knowing my extraordinary power. Being baffled by not finding a match, I simply satisfy the itching of my arms by beating them against the mountains. In this way, I tear many great mountains to pieces. Lord Shiva realized that his benediction had become troublesome for Banasura and addressed him, "You rascal, you are very eager to fight, but since you have no one to fight with, you are distressed. Although you think that there is no one in this world to oppose you except me, I say that you will eventually find such a competent person. At that time, your days will come to an end, and your flag of victory will no longer fly. Then you will see your false prestige smashed to pieces." The devotees of Lord Shiva, they turn real quickly. They're very puffed up. After hearing Lord Shiva's statements, Banasura became very puffed up with his power. He was elated that he would meet someone who would be able to smash him to pieces. Banasura then returned home with great pleasure, and he always waited for the day when the suitable fighter would come to cut down his strength. He was such a foolish demon. It appears that foolish, demoniac human beings, when unnecessarily overpowered with material opulences, want to exhibit these opulences, and such foolish people feel satisfaction when these opulences are exhausted. The idea is that they do not know how to expend their energy for the right causes, being unaware of the benefit of Krishna consciousness. Actually, there are two classes of men. One is Krishna conscious, the other is non-Krishna conscious. The non-Krishna conscious men are generally devoted to the demigods, whereas the Krishna conscious men are devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna conscious persons utilize everything for the service of the Lord. The non-Krishna conscious person utilizes everything for sense gratification, and Banasura is the perfect example of such a person. He was very anxious to utilize for his own satisfaction his extraordinary power to fight. Not finding any combatant, he struck his powerful hands against mountains, breaking them into pieces. In contrast to this, Arjuna also possessed extraordinary powers for fighting, but he utilized them only for Krishna. Typical of the materialistic person in this world who has great capabilities by the mercy of Krishna and utilizes them in a way to try to find pleasure for themselves. This is the problem, the trying to think of the word, basically the sickness that we have in this material world, being conditioned that we think, I am Krishna, I am the supreme, I am the all in all, and whatever I can get should be realized for me because I am the supreme. And this, of course, you see time and time again, not just from this situation of Banasura, which is a prime example, but also just anyone in the material world who tries to find material happiness in this material world eventually becomes angry or envious or frustrated by the fact that they are not becoming satisfied because of a false understanding that they are not, that they are the Lord and owner of everything. They are not the Lord and owner. Krishna is the Lord. Krishna is the supreme person to be worshipped, we should be satisfying the senses of Krishna. That's why Krishna is noticing his name is Hrishikesh, or the master of the senses. Banasura had a very beautiful daughter whose name was Usha. She had attained the age of marriage and was sleeping amongst her many girlfriends. She dreamt one night that Aniruddha was by her side and that she was enjoying a conjugal relationship with him. Although she had never actually seen him nor heard of him before, she awoke from her dream, exclaiming very loudly, "My dear beloved, where are you?" Being exposed to her other friends in this way, she became a little bit ashamed. One of Usha's girlfriends was Chitralekha, who was the daughter of Banasura's prime minister. Chitralekha and Usha were intimate friends, and out of great curiosity, Chitralekha asked, "My dear beautiful princess, as of yet you are not married to any young boy, nor have you seen any boys until now, so I'm surprised that you are exclaiming like this. Who are you searching after? Who is your suitable match?" On hearing Chitralekha's inquiries, Usha replied, "My dear friend, in my dream I saw a nice young man who is very, very beautiful. His complexion is swarthy. His eyes are just like lotus petals, and he is dressed in yellow garments. His arms are very long, and his general bodily features are so pleasing that any young girl would be attracted. I feel much pride in saying that this beautiful young man was kissing me, and I was very much enjoying the nectar of his kissing. I am sorry to inform you that just after he disappeared, and I have been thrown into the whirlpool of disappointment. My dear friend, I am very anxious to find this wonderful young man, the desired lord of my heart. After hearing Usha's words, Chitralekha immediately replied, I can understand your bereavement, and I assure you that if this boy is within these three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems, I must find him for your satisfaction. If you can identify him from your dream, I shall bring you peace of mind. Now let me draw some pictures for you to inspect, and as soon as you find the picture of your desired husband, let me know. It doesn't matter where he is, I know the art of bringing him here. So as soon as you identify him, I shall immediately arrange for it. Chitralekha, while talking, began to draw many pictures of the demigods inhabiting the higher planetary systems, then pictures of the Gandharvas, Siddhas, Charanas, Panagas, Daityas, Vidyadharas, and Yakshas, as well as many human beings. The statements of Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literature prove definitely that on each and every planet there are living entities of different varieties. Therefore, it is foolish to assert that there are no living entities but those on this earth. Chitralekha painted many pictures. Among those of the human beings was the Vishnu dynasty, including Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, Shurasena, the grandfather of Krishna, Sri Balaramaji, Lord Krishna, and many others. When Usha saw the picture of Pradyumna, she became a little bashful. When she saw the picture of Aniruddha, so Pradyumna was actually I think the father of Aniruddha, right? Not Samba. But Pradyumna, of course, was the father, so he looked very much like Aniruddha, so she became a little bashful. But when she saw the pictures of Aniruddha, she became so bashful that she immediately lowered her head and smiled. Having found the man she was seeking, she identified the picture to Chitralekha as that of the man who had stolen her heart. Chitralekha was a great mystic yogini, and as soon as Usa identified the picture, although neither of them have ever seen him nor knew his name, Chitralekha could immediately understand that the picture was of Aniruddha, the grandson of Krishna. That very night she traveled in outer space and within a very short time reached the city of Dwarka, which was well protected by Krishna. She entered the palace and found Aniruddha sleeping in his bedroom on a very opulent bed. Chitralekha, by her mystic power, immediately brought Aniruddha in that sleeping condition to the city of Shonitapura so that Usha could see her desired husband. Usha immediately bloomed in happiness and began enjoying the company of Aniruddha with great satisfaction. The palace in which Usha and Chitralekha lived was so well fortified that it was impossible for any male to either enter or see inside. Usha and Aniruddha lived together in the palace, and day after day the love of Usha for Aniruddha grew 4 times upon 4 times. Usha pleased Aniruddha with her valuable dresses, flowers, garlands, scents, and incense. By his bedside sitting place were other paraphernalia for residential purposes, nice drinks such as milk and sherbet, and nice eatables which could be chewed or swallowed. Above all, she pleased him with sweet words and very obliging service. Aniruddha was worshipped by Usha as if he were the supreme personality of Godhead. By her excellent service, Usha made Aniruddha forget all other things, and was able to draw his attention and love upon her without deviation. In such an atmosphere of love and service, Aniruddha practically forgot himself and could not recall how many days he had been away from his real home. In due course of time, Usha exhibited some bodily symptoms by which it could be understood that she was having intercourse with a male friend. The symptoms were so prominent that her actions could no longer be concealed from anyone. Usha was always cheerful in the association of Aniruddha, but she did not know the bounds of her satisfaction. The housekeeper and the watchman of the palace could guess very easily that she was having relations with a male friend, and without waiting for further development, all of them informed their master Banasura. In Vedic culture, an unmarried girl having association with a male is the greatest disgrace to a family, and so the caretaker cautiously informed his master that Usha was developing symptoms indicating a disgraceful association. The servants informed their master that they were not at all neglectful in guarding the house, being alert day and night against any young man who might enter. They were so careful that a male could not even see what was going on there. And so they were surprised that she had become contaminated. Since they could not trace out the reason for it, they submitted the whole situation before the master. Banashur was shocked to understand that his daughter Usha was no longer a virgin maiden. This weighed heavily on his heart, and without delay he rushed towards the palace where Usha was living. There he saw that Usa and Aniruddha were sitting together and talking. Usa and Aniruddha looked very beautiful together, Aniruddha being the son of Pradyumna, who was Cupid himself. Banashura saw his daughter in Aniruddha as a suitable match, yet for family prestige, he did not like the combination at all. Banashura could not understand who the boy actually was. He appreciated the fact that Usha could not have selected anyone in the three worlds more beautiful. Aniruddha's complexion was brilliant and swarthy. He was dressed in yellow garments and had the eyes just like lotus petals. His arms were very long, and he had nice curling, bluish hair. The glaring rays of his glittering earrings and the beautiful smile on his lips were certainly captivating. Still, Banashura was very angry. When Banashura saw him, Aniruddha was engaged in playing with Usha. Aniruddha was very nicely dressed, and Usha had garlanded him with various beautiful flowers. The reddish kunkuma flower put on the breasts of women was spotted here and there on the garland, indicating that Usha had embraced him. Banashura was struck with wonder that even in his presence, Aniruddha was peacefully sitting in front of Usha. Aniruddha knew, however, that his would-be father-in-law was not at all pleased and that he was gathering many soldiers in the palace to attack him. Thus, not finding any other weapon, Aniruddha took hold of a big iron rod, stood up before Banashura and his soldiers. He firmly took a posture, indicating that if he were attacked, he would strike all of the soldiers down to the ground with the iron rod. Banashura and his company of soldiers saw that the boy was standing before them, just like the superintendent of death with his invincible rod. Now, under the order of Banashura, the soldiers from all sides attempted to capture and arrest him. When they dared to come before him, Aniruddha struck them with the rod, breaking their heads, legs, arms, and thighs, and one after another they began to fall to the ground. He killed them, just as a leader of a flock of hawks kills barking dogs, one after another. In this way, Aniruddha was able to escape the palace. Banashura knew various arts of fighting, and by grace of Lord Shiva, he knew how to arrest his opposing enemy by using the use of a Naga Pasha, a snake noose. And so, Aniruddha was seized as he came out of the palace. When Usha received the news that her father had arrested Aniruddha, she became overwhelmed with grief and confusion. Tears began to glide down her eyes, and being unable to check herself, she began to cry very loudly. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the second volume, 7th chapter of Krishna, the meeting of Usha and Aniruddha. See how we're doing on time? Oh, we've got a little bit more time. So we'll continue. Chapter 8. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura. When the 4 months of the rainy season passed and still Aniruddha had not returned home, all the members of the Yadu family became much perturbed. They could not understand how the boy was missing. Fortunately, one day, the great sage Narada came and informed the family about Aniruddha's disappearance from the palace. Of course, Narada Muni, there we go again. He always comes to deliver the news, right? When by the way, here comes Narada Muni to explain everything. He explained how Aniruddha had been carried to the city of Shanitapura, the capital of Banashura's empire, and how Banashura had arrested him with the Nagapasha, even though Aniruddha had defeated his soldiers. This news was given in detail, and the whole story was disclosed. Then the members of the Yadu dynasty, all of whom had great affection for Krishna, prepared to attack the city of Shanitapura. Practically all the leaders of the family, including Pradyumna, Satyaki, Gada, Shamba, Sharana, Nanda, Upananda, and Bhadra, combined together and gathered 18 Aukshahini military divisions into phalanxes. So an Aukshahini is sort of a military phalanx. It's It's a combination of chariot drivers, warriors, archers, elephants, a certain number of those. And if you have 18, that's a lot of soldiers. Then they all went to Shanitapur and surrounded it with soldiers, elephants, horses, and chariots. Banashur heard that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty were attacking the whole city, tearing down various walls, gates, and nearby gardens. Becoming very angry, he immediately ordered his soldiers, who were of equal caliber, to go and face them. Lord Shiva was so kind to Banashur that he personally came as his commander-in-chief of the military force, assisted by his heroic sons Kartikeya and Ganapati. Janapati, but Ganapati. Different. Seated on his favorite bull, Nandishvara, Lord Shiva led the fighting against Lord Krishna and Balaram. We can simply imagine how fierce the fighting was. Lord Shiva with his valiant sons on one side, and Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his elder brother Sri Balaram on the other. What a battle, wow. The fighting was so fierce that those who saw the battle were struck with wonder, and the hairs on the body stood up. Lord Shiva was engaged in fighting directly with Lord Krishna. Pradyumna was engaged with Kartikeya, and Lord Balaram was engaged with Banashura's commander-in-chief, Kumbanda, who was assisted by Kupakarna. Samba, the son of Krishna, was engaged in fighting with the son of Banashura, and Banashura was engaged in fighting with Satyaki, the commander-in-chief of the Yadu dynasty. In this way, the fighting was waged. The news of the fighting spread all over the universe. Demigods such as Lord Brahma from higher planetary systems, along with great sages and saintly persons, Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, all being very curious to see the fight between Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, and their assistants, were hovering over the battlefield in their airplanes. Lord Shiva is called Bhutanantha, being assisted by various types of powerful ghosts and denizens of the inferno, Bhutas, Pretas, Pramatas, Gudyakas, Dakinis, Pishakas, Kushmandas, Vitalas, Vinakas, and Brahma Rakshasas, all kinds of ghosts. The Brahma Rakshasas are very powerful. Brahmanas transferred to the role of ghosts become Brahma Rakshasas. Wow. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, simply drove all these ghosts away from the battlefield, beating them with his celebrated bow, Sharanga Danu. Lord Shiva then began to release all his selected weapons upon the Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, without any difficulty counteract all these weapons with counter-weapons. He counteracted the Brahmastra, similar to the atomic bomb, by another Brahmastra, and an air weapon by a mountain weapon. When Lord Shiva released a particular weapon, bringing about violent hurricane on the battlefield, Lord Krishna presented just the opposite element, a mountain weapon which checked the hurricane on the spot. Similarly, when Lord Shiva released his weapon of devastating fire, Krishna counteracted it with torrents of rain. At last, when Lord Shiva released his personal weapon called Pashupata Shastra, Krishna immediately counteracted it by the Narayana Shastra. Lord Shiva then became exasperated in fighting with Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna then took the opportunity to release his yawning weapon. When his weapon is released, the opposing party becomes tired, stops fighting, and begins to yawn. It's like Lord Shiva. Consequently, Lord Shiva became so fatigued that he refused to fight anymore and began to yawn. Krishna was able to turn his attention from the attack of Lord Shiva to the efforts of Banashura, and he began to kill his personal soldiers with swords and clubs. Meanwhile, Lord Krishna's son Pradyumna was fighting fiercely with Kartikeya, the commander-in-chief of the demigods. Kartikeya was wounded and his body was bleeding profusely. In this condition, he left the battlefield and without fighting anymore, rode away on the back of his peacock carrier. Similarly, Lord Balaram was smashing Banashura's commander-in-chief Kumbanda with the strokes of his club. Kupakarna was also wounded in this way, and both he and Kumbanda fell on the battlefield, the commander-in-chief being fatally wounded. Without guidance, all of Banashura's soldiers scattered here and there. When Banasura saw that his soldiers and commanders had been defeated, his anger only increased. He thought it wise to stop fighting with Satyaki, Krishna's commander-in-chief, and instead directly attacked Lord Krishna. Now having the opportunity to use 1,000 hands, he rushed towards Krishna, simultaneously working 500 bows and 2,000 arrows. Such a foolish person could never measure Krishna's strength. Immediately, without difficulty, Krishna cut each of Banasura's bow into 2 pieces, and to check him from going any further, made his chariot horses lay on the ground. The chariot then broke to pieces. After doing this, Krishna blew his conch shell Panchajana. There was a demigod named Kotara who was worshipped by Banasura, and their relationship was as mother and son. Mother Kotara was upset that Banasura's life was in danger, so she appeared on the scene. With naked body and scattered hair, she stood before Lord Krishna. Sri Krishna did not like the sight of this naked woman, so to avoid seeing her, he turned his face. Banasura, getting this chance to escape Krishna's attack, left the battlefield. All the strings of his bows were broken, and there was no chariot or driver, so he had no alternative than to return to his city. He lost everything in the great battle. Being greatly harassed by the arrows of Krishna, all the associates of Lord Shiva, the hobgoblins and ghostly bhutas, pretas and kshatriyas left the battlefield. Lord Shiva then took to his last resort. He released his greatest death weapon, known as a Shivajvara, which destroys by excessive temperature. It is said that at the end of this creation, the sun becomes 12 times more scorching than usual. This 12 times hotter temperature is called Shivajvara. When the Shivajvara personified was released, he had 3 heads and 3 legs, and as he came towards Krishna, it appeared that he was burning everything into ashes. He was so powerful that he made blazing fire appear in all directions, and Krishna observed that he was specifically coming towards him. As there is a Shivajvara weapon, there is also a Naryanajvara. Naryanajvara is represented by excessive cold. When there is excessive heat, one can somehow or other tolerate it, but when there is excessive cold, everything collapses. This is actually experienced by a person at the time of death. At the time of death, the temperature of the body first of all increases to 107 degrees, and then the whole body collapses and immediately becomes as cold as ice. To counteract the scorching heat of the Shivajvara, there was no other weapon but the Naryanajvara. When Lord Krishna saw that the Shivajvara had been released by Lord Shiva, he had no other recourse than to release Naryanajvara. Lord Sri Krishna is the original Narayan and the controller of the Naryanajvara weapon. When the Naryanajvara was released, there was a great fight between the 2 Ajvaras. When excessive heat is countered by extreme cold, it is natural for the hot temperature to gradually reduce, and this is what occurred in the fight between Shivajvara and Naryanajvara. Gradually, Shivajvara's temperature diminished, and Shivajvara began to cry for help from Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva was unable to help him in the presence of the Naryanajvara. Being unable to get any help from Lord Shiva, Shivajvara could understand that he had no means of escape outside of surrendering unto Narayan, Lord Krishna himself. Lord Shiva, the greatest of the demigods, could not help him. What to speak of the lesser demigods, and therefore Shivajvara ultimately surrendered unto Krishna, bowing before him and offering a prayer so that the Lord might be pleased to give him protection. So a very important point. Even though Lord Shiva he's actually an expansion of Krishna. He's very powerful. He's still considered a demigod, and he's not as powerful as Lord Sri Krishna. Lord Sri Krishna is the personality of Godhead, the source of all things. So even Lord Shiva could not defeat Lord Krishna. By this incident of the fight between the ultimate weapons of Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna, it is proved that if Krishna gives someone protection, no one can kill him. But if Krishna does not give one any protection, then no one can save him. Lord Shiva is called Mahadev, greatest of all demigods. Although sometimes Lord Brahma is considered the greatest of all demigods because he can create, whereas Lord Shiva can annihilate the creations of Lord Brahma. But both Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva act only in one capacity. Lord Brahma can create, and Lord Shiva can annihilate, but neither of them can maintain. Lord Vishnu, however, not only maintains, but he creates and annihilates also. Factually, the creation is not affected by Brahma, because Brahma himself is created by Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva is created or born of Brahma. The Shiva Jvara thus understood that without Krishna or Narayan, no one could help him. He therefore rightly took shelter of Lord Krishna and with folded hands began to pray as follows. We've got a long prayer after this one. This is actually a very exciting story. I think I'm going to end it here, and we're going to start at this prayer of the Shiva Jvara weapon personified to Lord Krishna. It's a great prayer. I don't really want to cut into it, so we will continue it next time. And now let's chant Krishna's names. Jaya Lord Krishna. Krishna Thank you very much for tuning in for another story. And we will see you next story time. Haribol.